There's gotta be a way, 'cause going on without you is killing me every day. And if I wrote you a love song, sang it to you every day, would it ever be enough to make you wanna come back home and stay?
Hello, and welcome to the first edition of the Lone Gunman Podcast. You are currently listening to Rob Clark and the sweet dulcet tones of Florida Georgia Line. Now, this being the first episode of the Lone Gunman Podcast, let me explain a little bit of what I want it to be. I am a huge proponent and researcher into the JFK assassination, among other things. It has interested me for 25 years or so. I've read over 100 books. I've listened to countless things, seen countless videos, and I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, reading the Hardy Boys. I've always been a fan of mysteries and, that kind of genre and solving mysteries. And I guess it somehow subconsciously shaped my views of life. And when I ran across the Kennedy assassination, because it happened way before I was born, it captured my attention immediately. And it's one of the greatest mysteries of all time. It was a crime that took place in broad daylight at high noon. Well, 12:30 actually, but, high noon, right on the street in front of hundreds of people. And yet, we still don't know who the hell shot him or who was behind it. I mean, everybody has their theories and stuff like that, but no public outcry about it, no definite, admissions. Well, there's been admissions, but the credibility of them is what's questionable there. It seems like every theory has some way to counter it with something else. It's like everything you run into, it's a dead end, or it doesn't matter in the end, or it's false testimony, or it's intimidated witness testimony, or it's altered testimony, or you just don't know what's what. They summed it up real good in the JFK movie when they said it's a mystery wrapped inside of a enigma, or whatever the hell Joe Pesci said. But that's what it is. It's it's one of the most well-crafted assassinations ever in the history of the world. And they did it for a reason, so they could get away with it. And they have gotten away with it. And they have been running the country for the past 50 years. In case you haven't been paying attention, if you actually look at history a little bit, JFK was the last real president we ever had. He was beholden to no one. He didn't care who it was. He didn't bow to special interests. He wasn't worried about money. I think he was truly worried about doing the right thing for America, and that is lost. It's gone. It is long gone. This two-party bullshit system we have now is horrible. The presidents are puppets. They have no real power. They're told what to do. And if you don't believe that, then I don't know what to tell you. Then you are grandly disillusioned. It's blatantly obvious. These presidents are handpicked, they are groomed, and they are puppeteered. By who? That's the big question. Is it the banking cabal? Is it the military? I mean, what is it? And you can point to different things that you say, well, this is definitely it. They get away with murder. Well, they do. The defense industry, if there's no war, they're not getting any money. their budgets shrink, and they don't like that. They don't like it one bit. They want big money. They want big military contracts. They want big, full-on scale war is what they want. That's where they make their money. These big aerospace, companies, NASA's pretty much shit out of bricks right now, and it's been done with, and it's pretty much done and shelved. I don't know what they're doing now, but that's a story for another day. This is when it comes to NASA, and these big aerospace companies, they get their money from making rockets, making missiles, making guns, making ammunition, making vehicles, making airplanes, making jet fighters, making tanks, making, you name it. Anything, have to do with, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects, drones. This is what they want their money for. This is, they get these big contracts. The people in charge of these companies are making big, big billions. I'm talking billions of dollars. Like places like Halliburton, they make billions of dollars. They go blow this shit up, tear a country all to hell, and then they get paid to go in there and rebuild it. They're making money coming both ways, coming and going. It's crazy, but that's what's happening, and it's all because JFK was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. And they've been in charge ever since. You think Lyndon Johnson really did what the hell he wanted to do? No. He was told what to do. And Nixon was told what to do. He opened his big fat mouth, and guess what? They assassinated him too. But it wasn't with a bullet. It was in the public eye. This is how they get rid of him. Okay, Gerald Ford comes next. Another puppet. And he was on the damn Warren Commission. Okay, he's a puppet. Puppet. Okay, Nixon lost to JFK in the 1960 election. He was the vice president under Eisenhower. These guys just wait their turn, They said, all right, sit tight, Richard, Tricky Dick, and we'll get you in there, bud, okay? We got some things to take care of first. Robert Kennedy was going to run after Johnson. Well, they had to take care of that problem. Because if he would have ran, he would have won. And that would have been that. He would have continued JFK's legacy. Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? But it would have been better than Lyndon Johnson or Richard Nixon. I can guarantee you that. And then you had Teddy next. I mean, they had a potential to have a Kennedy dynasty in the presidency for, 24 years straight. Maybe even longer than that, because by then, the kids would have been old enough to, to start thinking about doing something. And that's why they had to kill JFK Jr. Because he was growing up. He was getting to the age where he was lining himself up to make a run. And I think he would have made a run. And I think he would have won. He knew the truth that his dad was taken out, his uncle was taken out. And he was in a unique position to do something about it. And he had power, he had the money, he had the good looks, the charm, the charisma, the speaking ability. He had all that. He had it all. And they took him out too. So the Bushes, George Bush Sr. is CIA, in case you didn't know. He was the head of the CIA for maybe 1 or 2 years. I think it was 74, 75. But let me tell you, they don't name the headquarters of the CIA after, a civilian person that was there for 1 or 2 years. No, they named that building after that man because he did great things. And I don't mean he was behind the assassination of John Kennedy. I just mean he was doing his thing. Not only before he was president, but during his presidency and after. And his son too. He was groomed. I got information about him. He was sent away and reconditioned after his college years, his wild and crazy college years when he was snorting cocaine and banging dudes. So, yeah, this is all, this is from trusted sources. But the point of it is, these guys are handpicked. Bill Clinton, handpicked. Guess who? William Jefferson Clinton. Okay. There's a good picture of him as a youth, probably 15 years old, shaking JFK's hand. Future president meets president. Okay. Now, fast forward a couple years. Hale Boggs, representing from Louisiana, also on the Warren Commission, picked by Johnson to be on the Warren Commission, or told to Johnson to pick him to be on the Warren Commission from Louisiana. He did not agree with a lot of the Warren Commission findings, and he was vocal about it. And guess what? He got on a plane one day to Alaska, and his plane disappeared, and they haven't even found it since. Now, this has been 45 years ago. They've never found his plane. Him, his staff, family, gone. Bam. And guess who drove him to the airport that day? Yeah, you guessed it. A young assistant named William Jefferson Clinton. I'm telling you, it's crazy, all these things that connect. But getting back to the why I'm doing this, there's so many things that apply to this. It's just fascinating to me to look into all this stuff and try to figure out the who, the what, the why, the where, the when, and the 20,000 aspects of this case is just crazy. I mean, you can concentrate in one area alone, or you can try to tackle the whole damn thing. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do here, and as long as this podcast lasts, I guess, or until I get bored, or until I get taken out, one of the two. But that's what I want to do. I'm active in probably 10 JFK-oriented Facebook groups, and there's a lot of brilliant minds on there. There's a lot of people on there. There's also a lot of assholes on there, and a lot of people that are entrenched in their little beliefs, and they won't budge, and they push agendas, and they're, running a psyop on everybody for God knows what reason. And but there's a lot of good researchers on there. I've met a lot of good friends, a lot of good people, and they're dedicated. They've been doing this for years, and a lot of people came from the forums, because a lot of the JFK forums are really hoity-toity, down to the millisecond type shit, where it's like, you better not even come to the game if you don't bring your ball, buddy, because that's it. If you better know what the fuck you're talking about when you roll up in a JFK forum, on the internet, like the education forum or something. You better know what you're talking about, or they will ridicule your ass out of there. But that's why I've stayed away from the forums. I can look and see in them, and some aren't as bad as the others, but it is what it is. And with Facebook, it's just a bigger, encompassing thing, and it's a lot easier to share pictures and share links and talk, and you can even talk privately to somebody instead of doing it all out in the open. And that's what I'm getting at. It's just, there's a big audience for this. Leno Sanik doesn't need to be the only one out there doing a JFK show. He does a great job, don't get me wrong. His shows are very informative, but I think he needs to switch it up a little bit more with his researchers. He's got DeEugenie on there just a little too much. Tired of hearing about Bugliosi this and Bugliosi that and C399 and all this other horse shit on there. But I like it. I like it when he interviews, different authors, and they come on there and present their findings and their evidence and what they found out. It's very informative. It's very good. He does very good in-depth interviews. I'm talking like hour and a half long. This podcast is only going to be a half an hour long, because that's all I got to do here. So yeah, that's the basis of it. I was tasked in high school to do a paper on a president. You know, everybody's given a different president, and I got JFK. So, in researching the paper about JFK, you know, you run across, well, he was assassinated, and, you know, this lone nut, Lee Harvey Oswald, shot him from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, and, you know, you read the official, you know, textbook crap, and, well, the more I dug, you know, I came across another book, and I was like, Jim Marrs' Crossfire, so I started reading that, and I was like, wow, holy shit, you have got to be kidding me. Like, my mind was blown, just blown. So after that, I read Jim Garrison's book On the Trail of the Assassins, which after that, I was hooked. It's over. And then, of course, the JFK movie came out, you know, and I'm in college, or getting ready to go to college, you know. And back then, there was no distractions like the internet and TiVo and video games and all this other shit that's out now. But, you know, back then I actually had time to do things, and you actually had to get your ass up and go to the library and hope your library had the book you're looking for, or you had to go to another library, and then you had to find that book in that library, and then you had to sit down and you made notes. You know, you did shit the hard way. Now it's as easy as, oh, I'm gonna Google this, Google that, and I can, bam, you got it right at your fingertips, which is great. You know, it beats the hell out of the old way, let me tell you. But where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So, you know, after the JFK movie came out, you know, it was like, wow, you know, this is really something. And you start reading books, and you're like, wow, you know, this guy has a really good idea. He's got some evidence to back it up. He's got some good assertions, you know, and then you're like, okay, yeah, I think this guy's on it. Well, then you go read another book, and it totally contradicts everything you just read. And his idea sounds better than the last guy you read. And you're like, well, shit. You know, well, what now? Well, okay, well, I'll go read another book. And then you read that book, and it's the same thing. It's like, wow, you know, this guy's looking at something, a totally different part of the case. And then, bam, you know, wow, awesome. You know, he found all this cool stuff out. And then, you know, you read another guy and another guy and another guy. And then finally you get to the point where you're just like, oh my God, my head is full of shit. I don't know who wrote what. I don't know where I heard this. I don't know who wrote that. I don't know who's supposed to have done this or who's supposed to have done that. And this is like overload, which up until a couple years ago, that's the point I was at. I had enough. I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, and as soon as the internet came out, you know, people, you know, the ops come out of the woodwork, and a lot of disinformation was put out there, a lot of red herrings, a lot of golden apples, and whatever other thing you want to call them, but it was a lot of false crap, a lot of disinformation, a lot of time wasting stuff, and you finally get to the point you're just like, all right, you know, screw this, you know, that's it. And then I even read Case Closed by Gerald Posner back after the JFK movie, and I was like, damn, you know, this guy brings up some good points. But then the more you read, the more you research, you're like, well, all his points are full of shit. You know, he doesn't take this into account. He doesn't talk about this. He doesn't have this evidence. You know, it's all based on false conclusions and false testimony, or not the whole picture. He takes a piece of something, but not the whole thing. You know, and makes it sound good, but it really isn't good. And you're like, and I didn't realize that until, you know, a couple years after, when you start reading things, and you're like, man, this guy's full of shit. And so is Bugliosi, and so are all these other people. You know, these lone nut assholes, they're the ones that make the money from this, not us, not the conspiracy theorists. They're the ones that get the big high-profile books. They're the ones that get all their specials on the History Channel. And they're the ones that control the museums, and they're the ones that have the memorabilia. They're the ones that are making the money off this. They're the ones that I think are paid to get onto forums and groups and everything and cause havoc and lead people down wrong paths and argue with conspiracy theorists about dumb shit so that we're not focused on the real thing. You know, I'll take for instance, okay? Oswald in the doorway, okay? This idea has been bannered about for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. Even the Warren Commission was wondering who the hell is this guy in the doorway, okay? It goes back 50 years. And countless researchers along the way have posited, oh, that might be Lee Harvey Oswald standing in that doorway. Well, you know, time goes on, and back then they weren't really working with the greatest of copies of that photo, especially as it was reprinted in the the 26 volumes. And back then that photo, it could be obtained, but it was a pretty lengthy process of writing the Associated Press and knowing exactly what the photo was and paying for it and getting it shipped and all that stuff, which you can still do now to get the original. But most people saved it from newspapers that it looked like shit in print. The detail wasn't there, a little fuzzy, a little pixelated. And then Robert Groden came along for the HSCA, and he enhanced the blow up of the Auction 6 photograph and cleaned it up a little bit, fine-tuned a little bit of the details and made it as good a copy as it could possibly be. And there's no doubt that is Billy Lovelady standing in the doorway. That photo shows no evidence at all of being alterated or changed, unlike the backyard photographs, which do. There's obvious insert marks, there's obvious cut marks. You can tell that it's somebody's face pasted on somebody's body. It's not rocket science. Back in '63, there was no Photoshop. It would have been done crudely, and it would have been done quickly. Auctions had that photo on the wire by 12:57, okay, which is 22 minutes after the president was shot. Okay, that photo was on the wire to the world. All right, he hauled ass back to his office, developed it, and got it on the wire by 12:57, interviewed by Richard Trask in the Pictures of the Pain back in the 70s. Now, he's got no reason to lie. He said what he said. He did what he did. It is what it is. That picture showed up in papers in special editions and evening editions on that day, 11/22/63, and there's no refuting it. And those copies look just like the copies we have now. There's no alteration. There's no white out. There's no scratch out. There's nobody missing shoulders. It's all bullshit. And it all comes from this guy, Ralph Sinkay, that Jim Fetzer unleashed on the world. He thinks he's the second coming of Mark Lane. He thinks he's so brilliant. He doesn't know shit. He's not a photo analyst. He's a liar is what he is, and a fraud. He's not a doctor. He's a piece of shit. He talks to people like shit, calls me a Kennedy killer. That's hilarious. I'm bathing in Kennedy's blood, he says, because I disagree with him. Well, hey guy, don't call yourself a doctor when you're not a doctor. Okay? You were a chiropractor. You lost your license 20 years ago to be a chiropractor. Okay? You sit in your little white coat with your stethoscope and shit online, selling illegal HGH and all this other shit online, posing as a doctor. You ain't a doctor. You ain't a medical doctor. You never were a medical doctor. Okay? You're a fraud. You're a snake oil. You're a modern day snake oil salesman is what you are, Ralph Sinkay. But anyway, the point of it is, shit like this is all over the place. And it's meant to be a distraction. And it distracted me for a while. For a whole year, I did 30 blog posts on this asshole. Just refuting all his stupid little points, point by point by point by point. Arguing back and forth. Well, not really, because they're incapable of having a discussion. This is the way it is, and if you don't agree with me, then fuck you. Well, no, fuck you, buddy, because I'm going to fuck you up. Every time somebody Googles your shit, they're going to find my shit. And it's going to say, it's going to refute everything you say. And I back my shit up with testimony, evidence, photographs, and everything else. All you have is, you don't have a shit. You have an idea is what you have, and that doesn't get you very far in this investigation. But anyway, I'll call it there, because I could go on for days about those assholes. But so yeah, all right. The next installment of the podcast, and I hope a lot of you find it informative and entertaining and all that good stuff. We're gonna narrow things down a bit and start focusing on different aspects of the case, and we'll crank them down for a half an hour and figure out what we got, what we know, what we don't know, who's who, what's what, and we'll get it figured out together, people. In the meantime, any questions you want me to address, please feel free to email me at conspiracycritic@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And if you troll the shit out of me, I'm not going to answer your questions. Don't spam me, Ralph Sinkay and company. I get enough of that on my blog. But yeah, any questions concerning this podcast or anything JFK related, Oswald related, I know a lot, and if I don't know it, I know somebody that knows it. Okay? And you'll get the truth from me. I'm not entrenched. I'm not married to one theory. I'm still looking into this and trying to figure it out just as much as everybody else. Because the more you know, the less you know in this case. Really. That's how it goes. Alright, well for now, that's it for this one. And I'll see you next time. Alright, keep checking back. And, I could do these once a week, once a day, 2-a-days. Really, whenever I get the inkling and the time. So just please check back the website and look for any new episodes. Download, listen, question. Alright. Y'all have a great day. I hope it's a good one. And keep JFK's memory alive. And keep his spirit alive. And keep pounding for the truth. Rob Clark out.